Welcome to Bros of Gardening. My name is Mike Westphal, joined always by my co-host Daniel Van Dyke. How you doing?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. I'm excited. We finally hit March. We're barely into it, but definitely excited to see March hit the calendar and hopefully start bringing some warmer weather, especially after this past winter. So I'm excited for it, and spring is almost here.
Yep. And then of course we've got Alex here to help guide us through this podcast. How you doing?
Been doing good.
Good.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, couple warm days here and there.
Yeah.
Makes us know that spring is coming. And today we're going to be talking about kickstarting a new hobby in gardening. Whether you are into gardening already, thinking about getting into it, we're going to kind of talk about, the whole idea of gardening being a hobby and why people do it and how do they get into it and how do you stay in it?
Right. Well, then I guess to kick it off, why do we think gardening as a hobby has persisted as long as it has, in our world?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously, we've had different podcasts on, depending on how you look at gardening, things like edibles and stuff. Sometimes it's out of necessity. I mean, it can be that basic. People grow
for sure.
Edibles for food and for nourishment. But then on top of that, I think gardening has really kind of become, to me, even more so now, it's become so much more technologically advanced. It can kind of be an escape. And obviously you do use some of that technology in gardening and it can be a great tool, but you still get out there, you get your hands dirty, you not to sound too cliche, you become one with nature, but nonetheless you can have fun with it, and it's kind of an escape from the fast moving pace of what society is today, social media and all that kind of stuff. You kind of just step back and relax, and it can be peaceful, and it can be a lot of hard work too, which is why some people don't like gardening. And the hobby of gardening is actually a really important question for landscape, because I always ask people, how much do you want to work in the garden? And that kind of sets the tone for how we plan out their garden from a maintenance standpoint. Because if somebody loves getting out there and working on plants, or working with plants and doing maintenance on the garden, then we might recommend some different types of perennials or flowers or things like that. But if they're like, hey, I'm not big into gardening, I want it to look nice, and okay, we need to scale it back, make it maybe a little bit more low maintenance. But I mean, really, I think one of my favorite things about gardening is good exercise. You get out there and you again get outdoors, get moving. But then you get a reward for your hard work. You can step back and look at it and say, wow, I created this, I nurtured this, whatever the case may be. So a lot of different reasons I think it is, but I think that the most basic one is it can be an escape from reality where you can kind of just hit the reset button and kind of relax.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, health, it makes it very, very popular. I think, if you were to, I don't really know the official statistics on this, but I would guess that sports and gardening are 1 and 2 of hobbies if you grouped all sports together. So people do sports for, to stay healthy and to be out in nature and to, keep active, and gardening is very similar. What I think I would say to add to that would be, I think anyone can do it. Right?
Yes.
So it's like when we talk about sports, like I play golf. I think golf is a great sport because you can play it for a long time. Yeah. Gardening, same thing. Is you can do it for a long time. You can be a kid and be into gardening. You can be, middle age and be into gardening, or you can be, as you get older, you can still continue to do it. There's always possibilities, whether it's indoor, outdoor, growing edibles, the fields and the different opportunities that there are in gardening are so vast that that it gives you so many opportunities to do it. And there's entry level into all of it, right? So it doesn't have to be, I've got, a lot of people might say, I can't play golf. It's an expensive sport. So gardening can be expensive for sure. You can be doing an entire landscape. You could be doing a big project, but you can also start with just seeds. A pack of seeds is $2 to $3, and you could literally go put a couple seeds in the ground.
Yep.
So anybody can do it. You don't need a lot of space. You could, be a small space. You could, live in an apartment and grow houseplants, or have a little porch or patio and grow a container garden. There's so many opportunities, and I think that's what makes it so popular is, anybody can do it. You can do it for the entirety of your life, and there's lots of different ways that you can kind of get into gardening. So it kind of fits a lot of needs. I think birding is an extremely popular hobby.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
It fits right into gardening. I'd almost put birding under gardening, to be honest, in the same kind of category. So it's just an exciting field to be in, and it's an exciting hobby to have. And what I always say too is you'll never know it all, which which I think is very cool too. Where, there's always going to be things that that'll challenge you a little bit, keep your mental aptitude, kind of keep you guessing and keep you thinking and learning and striving to do more. So I love the fact that we're in a field that I know by the end of my time in this 40, 50, 60 years from now, not from now, but in the field.
Hey, hopefully.
Hopefully is I still won't know it all.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool.
And to piggyback off what you said, it's a great point about the sports and the longevity of it, that being the driving factor behind it. And like for me, like I love to play basketball, but I know those days are becoming increasingly numbered. And I'm certainly not playing to make the NBA. It's just for some exercise and to have a little bit of fun. But it's funny because you always think of the physical exertion of, gardening, especially on landscape, it's younger people, but I've seen an overwhelming majority of people that want to get into it once they've retired. Now they actually have more time on their hands. And like you said, the mental, you want to stay sharp. You want to stay physically strong, mentally strong. You get out there, you work with the plants. It keeps you moving. If you don't use it, you lose it, So it's a great way to do it. And it's a fun way to do it. It gives you curb appeal, gives you value in the home. I mean, there's a lot of benefits to do it. And all the health benefits that it gives you. Be surprised at how many people get into gardening a little bit later. But, again, you've got young and old, like you said, and then it kind of keeps people rolling and keeps people going. And it's a great hobby to get into and have fun with.
Yeah, well, it's also a pride thing. You feel accomplished when anything.
That's my favorite part about landscape is when I would do a project when I was a foreman on the crew, whatever the case, if I'm a designer now, it's like when you're done and you can step back and be like,
the best feeling.
We did that. It's a gratifying feeling.
I still talk about that. I mean, that's where I started was in landscape. And I just remember that, like you get done with one of those projects and you stand back and you're like, we just did that.
Yeah.
And you can do that as a homeowner, do it as a do-it-yourselfer.
Absolutely.
And it can be small. I mean, sometimes I'll plant up a container and be like, wow, look at that.
Yeah.
I just created that. Or helping a customer do it too is a great sense of.
And if you take that pride in it, it's going to make it that much easier,
right?
Because you're excited about it. Because it can be, like we said, I mean, the whole point is it can be work, but it can be fun and you can have fun with it and take pride in it.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So.
I'm going to call it the number one hobby.
There you go. Hobby. You heard it here, folks. So Daniel, regardless if someone has a small flower bed or massive property, what can they do to getting comfortable in the world of landscaping?
I think, we talked about it a little bit. I mean, my number one recommendation for people, number 1A and 1B is, plan out your garden, but then also don't be afraid to make mistakes. And that all kind of goes hand in hand. And so I would say, dip your toe in the water. You don't have to jump in the deep end. And depending, again, how much time you have, like Mike was saying, if you don't have a lot of space, you can start with a container garden. There's a lot of different ways to start. If you are a little apprehensive about it, you want to kind of just get it. But the number one thing I would recommend is go to a local nursery, talk to people, just try to gather information. You're not going to learn it all. Don't try to learn it all. Just try to pick something that you want to attack, whether it's, hey, I want to put some color on my back patio, or I want to, enhance the curb appeal of the front yard. Pick one topic, one point, one kind of pain point that's something that bothers you that could enhance it. And that if you do correct it or fix it or enhance that, it's going to give you a good feeling every time you see it, give you some pride in it. Then just attack that. Attack one thing at a time. You don't have to rip out the entire landscape and overhaul it all at once if you're not ready to do that. So I would say the number one thing I'd recommend is find something that you're excited about, tackling, and then go for it. And like I said, I would do some research, but don't get overwhelmed with it. Go talk to your local garden center. I've always said, if we carry the plant material here, then it's probably going to perform here. You go online, you start looking up these different plants, you might find some really cool plants, but there's a reason you can't find them in any of your local garden centers because they don't perform here. So that's why, doing a little bit of research rather than just starting to order a bunch of stuff and throw stuff in, to have that plan of attack. But like I said, if you want to take it slow, just pick one flower bed, one garden, one project, so to speak, and just go for it.
Completely
agree.
It's
okay to start small.
Yeah, start small for sure. Yeah. And I mean, and that's why, and a lot of times, we always look at it, we've got the retail side of things and we've got the landscape side of things. And we work hand in hand and we're all the same company here. But that is kind of the difference. A lot of times if somebody wants to take on a bigger project, that might be when they call us in to do it. But then again, I always tell people too, we can come in and do the entire project, prep it, plant it, mulch it, all done, but you still have some work to do. You've got to water, you've got to take care of it, you've got to do the maintenance on it. We can go low maintenance, but there is no such thing as no maintenance. I know y'all heard that a few times last season, but again, it's just, know what you're signing up for and do a little bit of research and just, like I said, don't be nervous about it. It is an investment. It's a time investment. It can be a money investment, but it is worth it.
For sure. Definitely.
Mike, what do you recommend for someone to start out with? Seeds or starter plants?
I always typically say starter plants. So kind of where I kind of go to initially is vegetable gardening. I mean, I think, predominantly you're going to see when you look at the seeds selection, you're going to see a lot of vegetables. So let's say tomatoes. Let's say I want to plant a tomato plant. Well, with a starter plant, you can get one or buy 4 different varieties and get one of each. Whereas with seeds, you're going to get 40 of one type of variety. Do you really need 40 of that one type of variety? Now, you're going to save a little bit of money for sure. Seeds are value, and I love seed starting. And if you really get into gardening, I think seeds is a great opportunity to kind of grow a lot of different things and easily and affordably. But for $20, you can get 4 different varieties potentially of tomatoes. And then you've got that versatility of trying some different things and you don't have to worry about the process of starting seeds. And so, not that it's hard. Seed starting is very, very easy and something that I definitely encourage people to get into. But I certainly think that it's an opportunity to grow something very quickly from a starter plant. And then that doesn't have to be vegetables. So you can mesh that into color. So let's say you were looking for some annual color. You want to grow a container. You've got a small pot on your front porch. You can get a pack of petunias for $4 or $5, and that's got 4 plants in it. And you can plant them in a little bit of soil, potting soil, and watch them grow throughout the season. So you can get into it a little bit faster, a little bit easier by doing starter plants. And I think that kind of goes across the board. Let's say you're planting a tree. Maybe you don't need a 15-gallon huge tree where it's instant gratification, where you've got, a nice, 8 to 9 foot specimen in your front yard. Maybe you start with a smaller tree, like a 5 to 7 gallon, which is kind of a standard size. So there's plenty of opportunities to say it doesn't have to be like a little tiny plant. Some of them could be a little bit bigger. You might look at like azaleas, like Encore azaleas, one of our favorites. Well, there's 1 gallons and 3 gallons, and there's different sizes that you can start off with. And that's where we'll help you, kind of guide you through that process. And then I always talk about bulbs when it comes to value and getting into gardening. It's something that's kind of easy. Daffodils are, I think, the quintessential bulb that people think of, especially right now, because they're starting to pop out of the ground, and you're starting to see them blooming around the area. And so they divide, they multiply. They're very easy. It's a perennial. It comes back reliably each year, and they're very valuable. So you can get a pack of, let's say, 10, 15 bulbs for $10, $15. So $1 a bulb, and you plant them in the ground. Super easy. You don't really have to think about it too much. You definitely want to try and stand them up on the right end. But if you don't, it's not going to be the end of the world. So you can literally dig, drop, done. You've probably heard that a lot. So bulbs is a great opportunity to get into gardening. And I think there's just easy things that you can do to get into it. And then to piggyback off of what Daniel said, there's no project too big. So don't get overwhelmed. I think a lot of times, if I looked at my garage right now, I'd be overwhelmed at what I've got to accomplish to get that cleaned up and get it, more functional. But try not to get overwhelmed. Same with gardening, is take it a step by step. Come to us, ask questions, like Daniel said, and just, start to break those big projects into smaller chunks and say, what can I bite off this weekend and what gets me going in the right direction and start this project. So don't get overwhelmed.
Yeah. Well, and like Mike was just saying, that's a lot of times what we encourage customers to do is, hey, if you want to do your entire property, but you don't want to tackle it all at once, you can do a design for the entire property and then phase it. Say, my number one priority is creating an outdoor space. So we're going to go for the patio this year. Next year, maybe we'll do the curb appeal and rip out the front foundation bed. So, obviously, whether it's trying to think through the project in its entirety financially. There's many reasons why it can feel overwhelming. Yep. So phasing it and tackling it piece by piece is a great idea. And to go off again, what you were saying, it's one of the number one conversations I have with customers is, we don't ever really start with seed just because of how, we come in and we're planting. We've done some seeds for annual color and stuff like that, but we're almost always, 99.9% of the time we're starting with a starter plant. But then that gallon size, like Mike was alluding to, people always say, everybody thinks they want that instant gratification. Yep. The bigger, the better. But there's also, there's the price coefficient that comes with that too. If you're planting 100 plants and you want larger specimens and they're, it gets more expensive per plant. So, starting small isn't the worst thing ever.
Yep.
You can watch it grow in. It can be more manageable. And obviously, financially, it can help you out as well too. So that starter size is pretty much a direct correlation to the price and how much you're willing to invest. And so, if you go in saying, "Oh, I want these huge plants," and then all of a sudden you see an expensive price tag on it, don't be deterred. You don't have to start there. Bigger's not always better.
Yep.
It really just depends on what you want and what your need is. And again, we've talked about privacy in different podcasts. That's a big one where people want the biggest one to start with.
Yep.
But with the right pruning techniques and fertilization schedule, you can kind of encourage those plants along and bring them along a little bit quicker. If you do have to start with a smaller size.
Yeah.
So again, it all comes back to that. Just don't be overwhelmed. And just again, tackle it piece by piece if you need to, but have a clear and concise plan.
And you have projects. I've been to multiple ones where you said, I've been working on this for 10 years.
Yeah, I mean,
it's really broken up into phases.
I was just out to one, and it's funny. We started with the entire design, and then things change. So for the customer that one that we talked about not too long ago, I think I did the original plan in 2016.
Wow.
So it's like 10 years ago. We all of a sudden, a couple years later, they were having an erosion problem because they had put in a new driveway, the runoff from the driveway. And so we put in a functional water feature that, solved the erosion problem. Then they said, hey, we bought some trailers for our boats. And so we had to build a parking pad on the side. Yeah. And so your needs evolve.
Exactly.
And so that's why, if you plan it out and stuff like that, but it's going to change. But at the same time, we kind of took it piece by piece. We started in the backyard, and now we've essentially done the entire thing. And we're going back in a few weeks to clean it up and do the maintenance on their project. So I love projects like that. I like to go back and see them fill in when we plant them. Like we were just saying, they started small. Now they're growing and they're growing in, and you really get to see it come to life and kind of see that vision come to life. So it's one of my favorite things to do is to go back and visit sites a couple years later.
Oh, yeah, and I think, if you want to go big, that's fine too.
Yeah,
we can help you be successful with a big project. So if you're like, I want to do my entire yard, we'll help you. We'll help you if you want to do it yourself or go through landscape.
Yep.
And I think, it changes, like you said, over the 100%. Year. And personally, you have to kind of say what's important to me and what's important right now. So it's prioritization, so like looking at my yard as my personal, situation, it's bigger yard, bigger problems typically. And I'm more of a do it myself. So I'm trying to kind of chip away at it what I can. And so you say, hey, my foundation planting was my most important thing. Obviously for the first couple of years, it was ripping a lot of very old plant material out and trying to save maybe what I wanted to try and keep. But then it's, doing the foundation planting. And then what I discovered, which was, just kind of interesting that just kind of occurred, is I had a lot of container plants. Now I've got major deer problem. I got a lot of deer. So some of my specimens, like we've talked about Fatsia a lot, my all-time favorite plant, end up in pots and then end up on my porch. And those have actually become probably one of my favorite things to do now is growing these different shrubs or perennials or even annuals, popping in some annual color. I just popped in some pansies the other day into some containers on my front porch. So those have become kind of my quick fix because time is part of this whole concept too. Yep, what kind of time do you have? How much can you devote to it? We devote a lot of our time here to the garden center. So when you get home, maybe you don't want to garden as much. But that has become a personal thing that I've enjoyed really recently is growing some containers on my front porch and some different like specimens and different types of things. So while some of the projects in my yard have been too big to really kind of get accomplished right away, I've been able to, feel that sense of, accomplishment and what matters to me in gardening, which is, getting outside and being with nature. And so I get that on my front porch a little bit from time to time.
Yeah, it's a great point. And just to go off that, what is most important to you and what's going to bring you the most joy should be the driving factor. And so I say that because, again, we talk about how it is an investment, and, what's going to bring you the most personal joy might not be the same for your neighbor. Your neighbor might want to have the most beautiful lawn in the front yard that you could ever ask for. But for you, creating an entertainment space out back might be the most functional and give you the most bang for your buck. But somebody might want to create a meditation garden in the back where somebody might not think there's any appeal at that at all. But if that's going to bring you personal joy, then that's what you should put your resources into. That's what you should put your time and energy into. So, prioritize what's important to you and what's going to bring you the most joy. And then, that'll kind of help you decipher, okay, what should I tackle first? There is, an order of operations that you should do things as far as, construction-based things versus other things, just so you don't damage stuff. But you can kind of plan that out and attack things in the order that's going to bring you the most happiness.
Yeah. My neighbors would probably change my prioritization. Like, are you going to do your lawn, everybody?
Yeah.
I'll get to it.
I'll get to it.
Well, so for the both of you, what tools would someone absolutely need to get started versus what is actually necessary?
I'll give you, the most basic literal tool that you can do, whether you're removing some stuff, you're going to plant some stuff back. The basic one is just a good shovel. Good shovel. And I say good and I stress good because, we might be a little bit rougher with them than some, but, if you have a good shovel, you can do a lot with it. But I'm going to take a cop out and I'm going to give you a different answer. The number one tool you should have is a landscape plan, is have a plan.
I like it.
Of how you want to do it, because again, especially if you're on a bigger property or even a smaller property, but if you're not doing everything all at once, that plan is going to save you, because what you don't want to do is start doing work twice, where you're ripping out, you're doing this, you rent a piece of equipment, whatever the case may be, and it's like, oh, well, I should have done that. I wasn't thinking about the backyard because you wanted to tackle the front yard, but it might make sense to do some things in conjunction, or again, just have an overall aesthetic that might, you have kind of a design element to it, and you might have a theme or a trend that you want throughout the garden. So if you have that whole plan, even if you're not going to tackle everything at once, it's the best tool you can have, because everything's working together. And when you are done, maybe 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, it looks like you did it all at once. It looks planned, it looks organized.
Everyone's like, wow, it's amazing.
And so that would be, the literal answer, I'd say, is a good shovel. But my cop-out answer, I would say, is a good, well thought out landscape plan, so that you know where you're headed and you're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I love that one. And whenever I teach classes on whether it's do-it-yourself landscape design or seed starting, it's all about a plan or taking notes, just making notes. Yep. Once you do a vegetable garden a few times, you start to say, okay, I need to start doing crop rotation. Like I got to start changing where I'm planting my tomatoes each year. Yeah. And that you can only really remember, at least for me, is making some notes, not artistic, but just basic drawings of, hey, this is my garden area and this is what I did last year. And now when I go and plant this year, oh, where did I plant them? Oh, let me go back to my notes and my plan. And so I definitely love that. I think shovel is the right one that you got to have. You got to move some soil from time to time, whether it could be as small as a hand trowel, still a shovel, or a flathead shovel if you're doing edging. But just a good round point shovel is
tried and true.
If I go to grab tools to go and do something in the yard, it's always going to be a shovel, a rake, and pruners. I think those are the three. You're going to have a hand pruner to do some kind of clipping, corrective action, that type of thing. A rake is just so helpful because it'll save your back a lot of heartache. And then, of course, you're going to need to move some soil with a shovel from time to time, whether it's in a pot, whether it's in the ground. So those were kind of my three essentials.
Gotcha. So basically, I just need a shovel and a notebook.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah, that's a good start.
Great. Awesome. All right. Feel well prepared. All right. Well, that's it for me. You guys have any closing remarks or anything?
I think that's it.
No, it's a great hobby. Get into it. If you haven't gotten into it, enjoy it. Have fun.
Fun and rewarding.
Don't get overwhelmed. And learn from your mistakes. We say that all the time. You're going to make mistakes. We make mistakes.
Absolutely.
We've talked about some of our mistakes, and we're going to help you through those. And next week, we are talking about cut flower gardening. So now that we're starting to warm up a little bit and we're starting to get people planning and thinking about what you want to do, so that's going to be our topic next week. So thanks for joining the Bros of Gardening. Watch us on YouTube. Click, subscribe, rate, review, all of those great things.
Absolutely.
Let us know if there's anything that you are interested in hearing from us for future podcasts, and we'll see you next time.